Hi, everyone, and welcome to July 28th, 2024 Dojo Container with myself, Hoda, Intrepid Bodies. Today, I am going to be holding space for and honestly giving center stage to Planet Samone, who you may or may not know from social media. But I wanted to honestly just give the space to Simone so that she could introduce herself, introduce her work, and talk about anything else that she wants to talk about.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm just playing. Hello, everyone. I am excited to be here. Thank you for inviting. Oh my goodness. And if I sound stuffy, I do have a cold. So excuse me. But thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited and very blessed and honored to be here.
Ashe. I'm glad you can make it. I know we kind of you weren't feeling well, and then I got the dates mixed up. And so I'm really grateful that, the timing aligned that we could do this.
Yeah.
So the first question that I have for you, my dear, is will you let the audience know, or could you share a little bit about your background, what drew you to your unique creative and spiritual path? Because I know people are dying to know.
So some background. I am in a very private, old, ancient spiritual practice called the Mamisi Vodou. What led me to that is hoodoo, conjure. I was, what was it, right after I had my son, I started getting a lot of what my family calls our initiation into our mediumship. So I started receiving a lot of dreams, visions, and like prophetic visions, mainly around death and then people's destiny, including my own. And so that led me to this very coveted group called Reclaiming Conjure back in the day, where we all discussed, what conjure is and hoodoo and all those elements and things like that. I got really close to a diviner who was in the Isheshe tradition, and helped me and guided me a little bit with all of it because it was kind of new. And the elders in my family, everybody is so spread out across the United States. So didn't really have anybody locally to assist, even though she wasn't locally or local. Um, the elders, they really don't believe in all this technology shit. So kind of helped me develop a lot of things and like shared a lot of ancient texts. Just became really close in that aspect. And I would start divining for her. So that was kind of fun. But what's not fun is navigating seeing a lot. Because there's a fine line between like damn near going psychotic with your visions and just, going off the rails and actually staying grounded in those moments where you need to prepare, maybe you need to pray for someone in that realm. But it kind of can get a little complicated depending on what I see and what it is. But I have learned to pray a lot for people if I see certain things. And I've learned to assist people through a lot of grief, even my own. I am currently grieving now when our humans not, but that's a little bit about the background. But how it led me to the Mamisi is nothing built by patriarchy fit me. I really had a hard time with like the stigma around women or non-men in a lot of these religious spaces. And the Mamisi is all for women, men, and everybody, children included. It is the birth house. It is the return to self and the matriarch. So that's what led me to it.
Wow. Beautifully said, my friend. And I can tell it's funny because I'm like, the way that I wanted to word this question at first was like, what drew you or what made you interested? But I now see that there's a reason why I asked, how were you called to this path? Because it definitely sounds like that's what you were being called to. Quite literally.
And it's heavily related, it's heavily connected to the blood mysteries, the Kemetic and all of that. But
Mhm.
yes, 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 yes.
Is it okay if we diverge a little bit? Because I kind of want to
Yeah.
see what is there something you can share about the blood mysteries, or like what are the blood mysteries at a very surface
Oh
level to
Lord.
you? I know it's a big question.
I immediately start coughing as soon as you ask me that question. Not because, oh, I don't want to divulge information. It was just like, ooh, that was a lot of energy.
Mm.
So, from my own experience with it, it is not just teaching about like birthing blood, power of the blood, but it's like to me, in my opinion, in my understanding, what I get from it, and how I'm moved through this space. It is that holy blood and holy grail that a lot of certain bloodlines look for, and seek. And there are certain things that are passed down only through blood, right? A person may spend years their whole life dedicated to something, but they'll never have that thing, if that makes sense. Um, it is all of that. It's letting you know that the power that comes from, how do I word this? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it comes from, ourselves, comes from our ancestors, comes from, the ancients. So, it's like that saying, it's not what's on you, it's what's in you. That's the best way I can explain it without talking for 10 minutes.
Absolutely. No, and I'm feeling exactly what you said, especially towards the end. It's like, it's not in you, it's not on you. Kind of, to me, relates to like what I sometimes like surfacely call ancestral gifts, which is
Yes.
like something that is purely like downstream of how, I guess you could say, like how the mixing of our ancestors through, for some of us, millennia, and for some of us through thousands of years, has culminated to a particular gnosis, is what it also sounds like as well.
Yes, there's certain rituals, there's certain rites, there's certain there's certain things about it that may be different for each bloodline, but it the blood mysteries is literally like the return of the matriarch. Like patriarchy is like very centered around capitalism and greed and um, currency, fiat currency, and the deliberation of ancient people. So it is the total opposite of that. It is for all. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Because we have blood mysteries in Greece. We have blood mysteries in Romania. We had, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
the Delphi Oracle. So it's like even over here, a lot of my ancestry is here. There was also that as well.
Mhm.
There's certain things that women and non-men can perform, but that's not saying men cannot.
Mhm.
It's just the power that it holds, and honoring children and the women and the non-men. So
Absolutely.
which honor, because the matriarch honors all. It's for the evolution of all. So that's where
Yeah.
I can explain it, what it means to me,
No.
because obviously it's a birth house, it's your periods, it's all those things that you can possibly
Yes.
Google, but it's literally what's passed down through you through the blood. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of deep connections with, like even when I've gotten divinations from like a tata or a priestess of another tradition when I was trying to find where I need to be, they will always be like, "There's a lot of women around you in red," and just like looking, you have a lot of animal spirits that are like cheetahs, jaguars, things like that.
Mhm.
And I remember one time on a divination, a lady screamed because she was like, "There's so many ancient. I've never seen that for a black woman." I'm like, "Well, my people are from here." Like,
Oh.
so she said they look very ancient, like warriors. I'm like, I know. And then a lot of my experiences with and sight, seeing certain women who have come to me,
Mhm.
um, in dreams and telling me their full names, and I didn't know who they were, and then I would like look in a book or Google,
Mm.
never hearing about them before, and they would show themselves to me in a dream, and that's how I learned about these women in these lineages. Um, I forgot her name. One of them is Amin Raitas. I don't know. She was a one-eyed queen.
Whoa.
Um,
Yeah.
that that's one who came to me, and told me about blood mysteries and how to do certain things in a dream.
Wow.
So, mind you, didn't know who she was before. It's just like the sight, you know. Um, but yeah, hopefully that answers your
It
question.
does. No, more than, and I'm so glad that you explained because I like literally as you were speaking to the womb, I was like, so does womb health play in like in my mind? And you already responded. So I'm like, no, that's you said so much. And so I want to reflect what Nobu said in the chat, and I'm going to read what he said out loud in reflection to what you said. He says, what's coming up for me is that deepening in what I think you mean by blood mysteries is that, quote, working with our ancestors gets us reconnected to the Earth Mother versus the Sky Father.
Well,
And
it's
that,
both.
yeah.
It's both though, because the mother is also the sky, mother and
Mm,
father sky. So it's all of it. It's it's the universe, it's the earth, it's our blood, it's all that has been sacrificed through blood, like our ancestors sacrificed so much. You know what I mean? Um, you can clear, certain things will clear from your blood with certain rites and rituals. So it's so complex, but it's so simple.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the women's mysteries. It's very tribal. It's rituals. It's um, women in waters cleansing themselves, singing songs, tattooing. Like there's so many things, but also yeah, it's the
Yeah.
sky and it's the earth. It's the bloodshed. The good and the bad, quote unquote. So it's all of it. It's creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like honoring the entire process of creation is what's coming up for me too. Um, so I'm curious when it comes to, well, I'll skip this question because I feel like you spoke to dreams and visions earlier, and I want to know like what role that of like what role do dreams and visions play? It sounds like they already play a big role, but do you primarily rely on dreams and visions, or do you have like another energetic process? Is it both? So yeah, I'm kind of curious about that.
Oh, baby girl. I rely on wherever I am called, but mostly it starts through the dream because that's direct, especially if there's women sitting around me. I know that is serious business. And then from there, I'll get like physical confirmations, not an angel number, not what you see online. It's more of like something I seen in a dream that will come near me. Um, Also being in nature. A lot of people, I remember I was talking with someone and they were like, so they were like, I haven't paid attention to much of the nature and hearing birds until I actually started like listening to, whoever they believe, God and things like that and how they receive messages. So anyway, um, yeah, so it starts with the dream or the vision, and then I get confirmation in this realm, but it's not what everybody else's confirmation is. It's more of like a song or animals or certain insects or a conversation or a stranger coming up to me saying something. You know what I mean? So or being led to read and research certain things or to create because I'm led in my dreams a lot to create. And that's what keeps me close to God. That's what keeps me close to the ancestors is creating. And yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
It does, absolutely. And I think I can relate to with like dreams and visions because I'm like the signs like relate to like the greater field of whatever the message is. So it's like I'll have a dream and then it's like I'll be like, oh, okay, that was a dream, and then a song will confirm what I thought the dream was about, and then it's like I'll have a conversation with my mom. So would you say that it also timing has to do with the information that you receive? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
because you can receive, yes, oh my God, at the beginning, I'm thinking like, oh, I gotta do all this at once. Let me do
Mm,
everything at once. No,
yeah.
ma'am. No,
Yeah.
ma'am. That is not what they're telling you.
Mhm.
Or like, because again, having dreams about death is most people can't handle that. Number
Yeah.
one, I could barely handle that at first. But in regards to creation, to stay on topic, I had to slow down and realize it's not a race to get there. It's just being diligent and consistent, like how you are consistent with the broom. That's consistency. That's going to pay off, in ways that you can't even imagine. So it's just showing that dedication, that consistency, that devotion, and listening and knowing, okay, it's going to take not necessarily like plan out time, but I'm very much ruled by Capricorn, Saturn. So I have to speak about time sometimes, but whatever. Um, just like getting there, like enjoying the process of getting there versus rushing to get there. Because I'm an Aries Mars tropically, so I'd be like, I'm ready, and it's like, girl, you don't even have all the keys yet. I need you to slow down. All right, you're gonna
Pump
get
the
there.
brakes.
Or you're
Right.
gonna keep delaying yourself because you're missing certain information. So yes, it's a process of discernment, number one, and number two, being grounded and being consistent and devoted, and still finding joy in the process because
For
sometimes it's
sure.
not always pretty. A
Yep.
lot of things will come out of you in those times of creation, um, whether it's shame, whether it's this, whether it's whatever you're bottling up and holding back, that shit will come out in the creation process. And it's not for you to stop and question yourself. It's for you to keep pushing, and really decolonize your mind and your energy around, like, why do you feel this way? It's really for you to get to know yourself more instead of ignoring your shadow self or that those parts of you that were programmed into you, or you know what I mean, or people who didn't believe in you or projected
Right.
onto you, or you projecting onto yourself. It's a process. It's, a process of undoing and resurrecting yourself so that you can, be at your highest heights and continue to go. And I don't say highest as in like higher or lower energies. I'm talking about where you envision yourself,
Right.
because you're already on that path. So,
And I'm so
hold on,
glad you Oh yeah, for
I got
sure.
a cough. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm glad you had spoke to discernment too and also finding joy. Cause I'm like, I think you just spoke to like what it actually takes to pay attention to throughout an entire creative process, which to me is also very similar to birthing something. And a lot of the times I'll say that I feel like a birthing mother when I'm birthing either a new container or I'm learning something completely new about myself. I'm like, oh, okay, I've never given birth on the physical, but I'm like, it quite literally feels that way. Like I either have to rebirth a version of myself or I have to literally fall in love with life again in order for my creations to and the things that I'm putting out and collaborating on to like make sense.
And that's
So
big mommy C energy.
yes,
Big
her
mommy C energy is birthing, Um, it's a lot of the complex things, but big thing is birthing, it's birth house.
yes,
So, yes, ma'am. I love that.
I love it. Okay, my next question is you spoke to having experienced both what sounds like on the record and quote unquote off the record spiritual initiations. Would you be open to sharing how, yeah, I'd be curious to know how these have shaped you.
So, um, where do I even start with that? I never usually go seeking for them, if that makes sense. Like I just was led there. Like there's been many people from many traditions I tried to, I wouldn't say recruits because that sounds very predatory, but saying like, oh, you have big Oya energy, or you have big Yemaya energy, or you have big Ajay energy. And I'm just like, I respect the Orisha, but I do not feel called to those particular traditions. But I do know that I, Oya energy is very heavy on me, you know. She is the mother of nine, and that is the name of my agency, Mother Nine. Not even realize that, right? Um, um, but it was mostly started with the dreams, like giving birth to my son was like I felt like a big initiation for me because that whole time I was pregnant with him, I was creating. I didn't have a bad day, and I know that sounds crazy, but like even when something irritated me or whatever, I was just like I was as creative, well rested, fueled as possible, you know? And I was creating like nonstop, not in a manic mad scientist way, even though I do definitely have that energy, but more so in a way that was very joyful. And it was like that's when I started really creating visuals with my homeboy Mike Garrett. I think he's in Seattle, Washington now. Does amazing work. And this other guy named Christian, he's a director. I was just creating visuals nonstop, and I felt like that's an initiation, right? Birthing your ideas, birthing something that God or the ancestors placed in your spirit, or composited right into, or direct deposit right into your spirit.
Yeah.
And you know how the saying, people are like, "Oh, if you sit on an idea too long, somebody else is going to do it." I've never had that happen to me.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's mainly because my things are so particular, and that's how I know that God is speaking to me. I'm not saying that God's not speaking to anybody else. That's not what I'm trying to say. But we all have a different levels of creation. Like, you could be on a collective level of creation. You can be on a personal level of creation. I don't think that's talked about enough. Because a lot of our conditioning, our creativity comes from looking at other people. I don't look to people for creativity. Okay. I don't look at what other people are doing for creativity. I look at the ancients. I looked at what they used. I look at the beadwork. I look at I look at some of the films. You know what I mean? I look at everything that people don't look at. Like, a lot of my like, even my favorite and I'll get back on topic. Film director is Tim Burton, even though he's, we ain't gonna talk about that. And and there's certain, directors that, direct music videos are my favorite, but mine have always been very spiritual, if that makes sense. Like, one of my favorite shows is Tales of the Crypt. You know what I mean? So I'm very connected to that realm. Like, death does not scare me, you know? So I'm not afraid to talk about the ugly or whatever in a different light or whatever. So anyways, I feel like that's an initiation, creativity, right? And that connects you with yourself in a way that people may try to duplicate or whatever, but it's just letting you know that you're on your path and don't let those things distract you. It's not to say, like, don't stand up for yourself and, don't get, and protect your things that you're creating, but don't let that discourage you. Another initiation was giving birth. Well, that was the first one. And then I think I took acid. And they could argue this, but I'm from a place where there's many shamans and very native people. Like, I come from a very native family. So that in itself, most people, they see like butter, they see like random stuff. Like, I've seen ancestors, I've seen women speaking Spanish washing my head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my visions are totally ancestral. So I feel like that was an initiation. Me being initiated to the bees, to like the sweetness that they possess, and also the protection that they possess. Like, getting stung by a bee, and I'm highly allergic, but nothing happened. There's so many initiations in life, because hoodoo, even in hoodoo, like, the initiations aren't like African traditional religions per se. They do have initiations, you know what I mean? It's just different. So I feel like I've had many initiations, and like, even now I feel like I'm going through another initiation that I don't currently want to talk about, but I will at some point, because I'm still in the middle of it, you know what I mean? But I've had many initiations in regards to creativity and to birthing myself, if that makes sense. Like, letting myself be free, and blossom as I go. So, and then in the Mamisi, that whole initiation was at a river, and it was beautiful, and a volcano erupted at the same time I was getting initiated. And that is big Mamisi energy. So that let me know that I was honoring the mothers in such a beautiful way. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
It does. It does.
I'll be trying not to be long-winded, so my bad.
No, but it's so like what you're saying is so specific to your experience that I'm like, no, take as long as you need to. Number one. Number two, I just love that you're able to see the theme of how held and like supported you've been, even through very tough moments in your life. So it's also like really empowering to just hear how like this thread of trust with you and your ancestors and your spirits and God are so strong, and you're it's something that you're continuously like contributing to, you know? So I really love that. I appreciate it. Um I feel like what's coming up for me right now is to kind of talk a little bit more on what you said about discernment, and also maybe like on a more like larger collective level. How do you feel that discernment and ethics and spirituality, like, do you feel like they're connected? And I don't even want to just say spirituality, but in spiritual traditions and in spiritual lineage, I feel like they're connected.
Ask the question one more time. You kind of cut out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Can y'all hear me now?
I can hear you fine now.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think my question was around how do you feel safety and ethics are connected in when it comes to not only being part of a spiritual tradition and a lineage, but when it comes time for you to maybe start offering the medicine that you have from your lineage, how does safety and ethics play into that for you?
Oh, it's big, 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 girl. Oh my goodness. Okay. So it's a fine line between you have to know your body, and a lot of people don't feel safe in their bodies, right? A lot of people experience a lot of trauma, a lot of things happen with your body that you're in this container that you're in, right? So some people can't rely on feelings but you want to at some point. You want to be able to trust yourself. That's the thing. You have to be able to trust yourself and not lean into paranoia or whatever. You have to see patterns. You have to look at it for what it is. So
Hmm.
again, it's a lot of decolonizing those things, and it's a lot of removing. What did Jordan say? Skin priestess, removing the poison from your
Yeah,
body,
Ashe.
right? I gotta quote her real quick, okay? Because yeah. So with that, I'll give you an example. So you got to know what's a no and what's a yes, because a lot of people join things because they want to feel like somebody. You're already somebody. You're already somebody. You don't need to be a part of whatever to feel like somebody. So you have to be understand like why. Ask yourself questions. Why am I doing this?
Hmm.
Why does it make sense? Does it make sense for me? Does it give me autonomy? A lot of those traditions for me personally just didn't give me autonomy to choose, because you have to go by strict things, which I respect, right? I respect all traditions except a few, but I'm not for anything that hurts people. But um, I, for me personally, I go off what I see, what's not being said, right? And what's being said, if that makes sense. So if I'm talking to someone, they're telling me X, Y, and Z sounds good, and I get a dream that they're actually doing this because I'm a seer, right? I have sight. I'm a medium. So my spirits are automatically going to see what you're doing behind the scenes if it's malicious, you know? And they're going to tell me bar for bar, like I'm there, like astral projection almost.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's different. I can't say the same thing for everybody else. But on a collective scale, you want to go with um, most things are cults. Anything can be a cult. But
Hmm.
I'm more interested in, like I said to you the other day, in secret societies because not everything is for the public. Um, that doesn't make it bad. That doesn't mean that you are less than. It's just certain level of people can handle certain things. That's how you localize community, and that's how you get shit done. Um, but go off of hmm, I would say you have to like really trust yourself. You know, you have to know when something's right and know when something's not right for you. Because like I said, anything can be a cult. Some fitness groups can be a cult. Fucking, you know, how you eat could be like, you know, those fitness groups that do extreme dieting could be a cult. Like, it's just anything could be a fucking cult.
Yep.
So it's like, do you want to join a cult, or do you want to join something where you're honoring and respecting not only yourself, because again, you're the altar, right? um you are the direct offering to the Most High, by honoring what you're doing here on earth. But like, and you honoring the spirits that came before you, the nature that came before you, because you know, Kemetic, you honoring nature and all that stuff, same way as like natives. So it's more so how you feel. Like I said, if you feel safe, I go by how you feel. But some people that doesn't work. So it takes a lot of healing first to
Mhm.
understand why you want to be in certain spaces. Do you want to
Yep.
be seen? Do you want to be heard? Do you want to be felt? Or do you want to really honor all the divinity in you and remove all this programming and poison from you? Again, shout out to Jordan for the poison word, and the knowledge around that, um, and truly grow as a person so that you can live a life full of joy and pleasure, while also, because joy and pleasure liberates us. Little do people know. You don't always have to be angry and mad and protesting. It's more so getting closer to the divine and the things that you are going through. So whatever. I don't want to keep going on about that, but it takes a lot of, again, discernment, and discernment is built on self trust.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, if something don't feel right, it's usually not right. If you're second guessing, going back and forth, usually it's a fuck no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did that a lot in my life, and I can speak to that. Like, if I got a funny feeling about somebody, I'm like, no, they cool though.
Yeah.
Most times in the end, it was not. It was exactly how. And you know, sometimes people are like, you can manifest bad, blah blah. No, baby, if you feel that the shit ain't right, it's not fucking right.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Unless you project like crazy onto people and you're always creating chaos and you don't have a grip on yourself, I suggest that you do that somehow. Seek the help that you need. There's many ways to get assistance.
Yep.
But for, you know, those who feel grounded and are like, oh, I want to join something, I'm feel called to this. Like, do a little more research.
Mhm.
Speak to some people, you know, but don't just join something just to join it. You know, you need to know who you are before you join anything. Um, and know why you're doing it. So that's a part of the discernment, is that, like, that self trust. I second guess myself way too much in my life, and I wish I would have just went with my first mind. And it's not even about the mind; it's my heart and my womb space, because you know they're connected. So
Yep.
if my womb and my body is tensed up towards you, if I'm tense around you, I know that that's for a reason. If I'm comfortable around you and I can express myself, I'm safe around you. And it's not, and I don't want to say like, oh my God, people are safe spaces, because any safe space can turn poisonous. Any
Yep.
safe space can turn toxic really fast or fucked up. Because, you know, not everything is going to be peaches and sunshine all the time. I need people to realize that we're still human. You know what I mean? Like, when you open yourself up, you're opening yourself up to possible harm, to
Mhm.
anything.
Yep.
So it's more about, do you want to go through this experience, or do you want to live life afraid? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Don't open yourself up to somebody who you feel like is abusive, and you can see the traits of their abuse and how they speak to people and how they covet things. You know, like, just look, pay attention, open your eyes. You know, listen, to what they're saying, how they're saying it. You know, somebody speaking from a very egoic space, or they think there's somebody. You know, you just gotta pay attention. There's so many
Yep.
complex nuances to it, but just open your eyes, listen,
Yeah.
and listen.
Yes, absolutely, dude. And I'm so wow. I'm like, yeah, all of that not only aligned for me, but I'm also like, I love that you spoke to the fact that it's a process. I also really love the fact that you spoke to like trauma being the thing that can inform your decisions, and also informing the thing that, is keeping you from trusting yourself, any person, right? Anybody. And those things needing to be worked out is something that I'll say, like, I think when I first entered this work, I really struggled with it because I'm like, oh, I had to do some work on integrating what felt like an aspect of like mental health and spirit work. And so now I see that it's very hard to differentiate, but it also like speaks to, I think, I don't know, just like highlights more of what you said, that there is a process of having to clear your channels, word to Jordan, clear the poison in order to get a clean read, not only on people and spaces, but also like your own individual path is kind of what I hear.
Yes, you gotta be. You gotta. You got to trust yourself. And like I spoke to the mental health thing because people try to separate it from spirituality, and it's all in one. It's all wellness. Um, so yeah, it cannot be separated. You have to know and check in with self regularly.
Now I have another question because you was talking about cults and I was laughing. I muted myself. I was like, yeah, especially when you spoke to like fitness cults, and then I started thinking about like TikTok cults, and then I started thinking about that Mormon
There's
lady
so,
on TikTok, and I was like,
there's
Lord.
so
So
there's so
I want to
many.
ask, what'd you say?
I said there's so many.
There are. And so Nobu asked in the chat, he said, I'm interested in what makes something a cult to you.
When it is led by pure greed and and there's really no end goal, just extremism. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? There's no direction of like, let's be the fittest. What you know, like I'm just using fitness as an example because
I think it's
it's
a good example.
it's not funny. I'm just a very goofy person, but like I just be like, this shit is a fucking cult. So what makes something a cult to me is the extremism, the capitalism, people really taking advantage of people. You know what I'm saying? Taking advantage of their decisions. Like if like I know there's a lot of church cults, right? Telling people that making people spend all their time at the church, giving all of what they have for this person to then abuse them.
Mm.
You know, that's a cult. A cult usually harms people in
Yeah.
some form or matter. It's abuse, you
Mm.
know, and I'm not for that. That's not what a matriarch is for. You know, there's I don't fuck with abuse on any level.
Right.
So, and I stuttered, so I meant that. But it's just very extreme. You know, it doesn't need to be that extreme. You don't have to force people's hands. If they want to be there, they'll be there. You know what I'm saying? Out of love, out of you telling the truth, you know, and some people create these cults because they didn't feel like somebody in life, you know,
Yeah.
or because they had a dark period in life where they were ignored. That's why I say you have to check in with self, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because just because you can lead a group of people and, you know, I forgot what church this was or whatever. It was some guy back in the 60s or 70s. He started this freaking church and took all these black people, all different
Oh,
types of people to this fucking island.
yep.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't even know what it's called because I just erased it from my brain for real. And
Yeah.
abused the shit out of them down there. They didn't have proper anything. That's a fucking cult. Okay? Like, and then would kill certain people if they weren't in line with the shit. That is a fucking cult. You know what I mean? And they couldn't talk to their family. They couldn't tell nobody what was going on. The difference between that and a secret society is that's just like the Black Panthers. You feel me?
Right.
They was for the liberation of people. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to go. They wanted to rewrite the. They wanted the government to uphold the laws that they stand on, which they do not. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So they were fighting for liberation. They were fighting for people to. Hold on one second.
For sure.
Okay, sorry, Jelani. You know, Jelani does his thing right
Yeah.
in the middle. Jelani's my son,
Funny.
everybody. Jelani Jupiter. But yes, so that's my definition of a cult. I've
Yeah.
never seen them work out well in the end. The person usually has some type of um, evil plan, you know what I'm saying, in the guise of a higher power. Kind of
Mm.
like but that plan is usually is for to fuel the self and their own pain that they have gone through in life. And it's kind of sad because that guy, he harmed children, women, all
Yeah.
types of people, and then there's sexual abuse that happened as well. It was just really messed up. So, you know, I see these documentaries and things all the time, and I've actually experienced people wanting to me to join their cults and how
Yeah.
they operate, and being trying to be very invasive. And I had to use quick discernment of like, this don't feel right. I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? I don't rock with that at all. That's not what I'm for. That's not what I stand on. So yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I wholly agree with what you said. Like when there's abuse, when there's abuse of power, like Lexi in the chat said, what came up for her is like cults have a feature of unequal power dynamics, which I totally agree with. And Nobu said in the chat, yes for me. Oh wait, yes for me. Sorry, I just read that too fast. Yes, for it's when power is taken from people and not getting them to be more powerful in themselves. And I wholly agree with that as well.
Yes, like what is the point of people joining this initiative if you're going to remove power and their own autonomy from them, and you're replacing their beliefs with I don't it just it's so yucky. Like it's
Yeah.
not cool to me. I'm just like and people just want something to believe in. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But you have to believe in yourself first.
Yeah.
And I pray people just hear that from my own spirit and energy. Like you have to believe in yourself and I think that also speaks to too like people's upbringing, right? Like
Yeah.
people prey on people, you know? They prey on their kindness. They prey on, what they went through as a child. Or, can be very manipulative and you may think that this person is, oh, they're so kind. But it's like you have to look a little deeper, you know?
Yep. Yep. You got to do like look at people with your three eyes, not just the one, or like your first eye, as people say, in situations as well. So I'm really glad that you spoke to that. And I really agree with what you were saying too, like about how there's a very clear distinction between groups that are giving people tools and mechanisms to stoke their own power and groups that are doing the complete opposite in order to like hoard power. So
Yes.
yeah, I really appreciate that. Um, what was my next question? Child, got so wrapped up. Hold on. Okay. So what advice, I mean, advice is kind of a tricky word, but what words of wisdom do you have for others who are looking to connect with their spiritual roots and or their ancestors?
um, I'm such a goofy, giggly person. So words of wisdom. Do not look at what everybody else is doing. Look
Mm,
at what you feel called to and fill out what you feel called to. Start with your bloodline. Start
right.
with your real bloodline. As painful as it may be for some people, for certain situations who are adopted, etc. I had a client who, client slash friend, because Melissa's great. Shout out to her. Um, she's a she's adopted, and that's like she doesn't mind that people know that.
Yeah.
But I did a divination for her. I'm like, you have Taino spirits, yes. You have ancestors in Louisiana, and this is the name of the tribe. And she did her, I think it was My Heritage, and it was correct, and she was blown away. Look at your bloodline and see what they practice. Like, there's a lot of great Celtics. Is that how you say it? Celtics,
Yeah.
Romanian, the fucking everything. Like, look at your bloodline,
Yeah.
literally, and see what knowledge they possess. Look at what works now, what doesn't work, what's unethical, what doesn't apply now. You know what I mean? And feel that out, and everything in your life starts to make sense. Like, oh, wow, I'm attracted to certain things. Like, I'm obsessed with skulls, y'all. Okay, I have a skull ring, very tiny. I made it. I'm obsessed with African mask and like Mayan mask, and I'm obsessed with certain things that are in my house, right? And it's because that's what my ancestors did, and that's what they had, and that's they use certain things for certain whatever ritual ceremonies. Um, I don't like fake leather because my ancestors were leather makers, you
Mm,
know. Um, and that's how they sacrificed and honored the animals. There was a certain process to how they did it. They were like really the first coutures of the world, not like they say in France, but it
mm,
started in little tribes, little whatever marketplaces,
yeah.
where somebody learned a very skill. Like Africa, they are so fucking skilled. Like the best leather comes from Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
over here as well. Like, you know what I mean? So over here and over there. So they were trading way before that. But yeah, just look at your bloodline. Start there and start looking at what you're called to, not because of what you've seen online or whatever. Look at what you're called to. Go towards your bloodline. Stop trying to hop in everybody else. Like I would never hop in something that my bloodline isn't in, but my bloodline is called to, like, I'm also called, as you know, um, to wear hijabs a lot because I have ancestry from there,
Yeah.
certain part of Africa. So I'm very attracted to wearing a lot of, I have hella rings on. I usually have hella bracelets, but I took them off before this. So y'all wouldn't be hearing all that. I wear a lot of adornments for certain things though. Certain
Yes.
things are conjured, certain things are talismans on me. And that's what my ancestors did. So look at who you come from, your bloodline. Start there. Start with figuring out who you come from.
Absolutely, man. That I feel like honestly for anyone who is listening to this, that could possibly be like a huge permission for them to like explore what ancestral work looks like. Because it also really what you said earlier, like about how the body is the altar. And it reminds me of how like even for me early in my path, I was called to like adorn a lot of the things that I wanted to put on my altar. So like I would get a crystal and then I would be told like, oh, get a necklace holder for it because you want to wear this crystal, like, you know,
Yes.
wrapped in something so that you can wear or, shop with people who do this process. And it just kind of sometimes like ancestral also veneration can slowly but surely do that also like what you spoke about earlier, that decolonizing work in the background, like
Yes.
so instead of you going to like some mass produced jeweler and just getting something that everyone else gets, you've gone to like maybe someone local or you've commissioned someone and now you've built a relationship, which actually to me is more a lot of the times I get a sense that collaborating in that way is so true to like my ancestors. They're like, if you can talk to the person, if you can remember their name, and if you can come back to them, and if you can help grow their business, that's the kind of relationship you want to have. And so that to
Yes.
me, and that, y'all know, like my ancestors are African as fuck, and on the market, their whole idea is like the world is a marketplace. So it's like it also really falls under that umbrella too. That ancestral veneration can also um, just help you appreciate not only where you came from, but help you change your relationship to how you relate, even to other people, and goods and material and the material world altogether. I could be reaching, but
No,
I'm
you're
just
not reaching. You're not
yeah.
reaching because a lot of things were colonized, right? A lot of things were
Right.
taken over. And so that ancestral elevation lets you know also the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
You'll get the truth. You get your truth serums.
yeah.
Um, just so I know I learned a lot of things came from a lot of our ancestors. I'm talking about African or indigenous people. So, but the Vikings though, they ate. If people
Okay.
got Viking ancestors, you need to get into it, okay? Because them niggas ate. Uh, they were trading with everybody before what the other countries, the crazy eats. But yeah, they I have to eat like a Viking. I have my dad's mom is white, so uh European. So Cajun Creole, same whatever. But she
I'm
she had a
cracking up.
lot of she had a lot of medicine and keys for me too, because she's half Cajun and also half Native. So like she had a lot of keys for me as well. Native Mexican, she said, whatever. Um, it's a lot of medicine in your bloodline. So start there, elevating your ancestors, honoring your ancestors, and the Most High. I don't know what everybody believe in, but definitely I know for me, it's the most honoring the Most High as well. But yeah.
Shay, dude, I'm over here cracking up laughing because I talked about the Vikings, and I'm like,
I'm sorry. I would have no problem representing them. They all protection all day. They know how to trade properly. You
yep.
know what I'm saying? So
No, I'm so glad because I'm
anyway,
also like, if there's like Europeans in this room, which some of us are, and there's also like Caucasian ancestors, I think it's also healthy to know that like nobody just fell out of, nowhere. We all like come from a people, and I
hmm
think that's so important. Yeah, and Nobu's saying in the chat, like the Vikings weren't all about dominance, and so the only way I think that we can actually like as a collective like understand and believe that is if people connect and get to know those
yes.
stories that are like behind
Because
the
I want
veil.
to know your story about your ancestors. I learned some cool ass shit
Yeah.
about the Fae and fairies,
Yes.
and that was crazy because I had to go off center real quick. I had a moment where I had this necklace on that I never took off.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in my mom's garden, y'all. Not the y'all coming out, not the Nebraska
Yeah.
coming out. Um, howdy. But I go take a nap. Mind you, this necklace don't come off. You can pull it, tug it, whatever. Gold
Mhm.
necklace, whatever. Why is outside hanging on the flower?
What?
I'm literally I woke up like, where's my necklace? I felt like somebody took it off, you know? It's outside hanging on a flower, a bush of flowers.
It
And
was the
I was nowhere near that bush of flowers.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
That was the Fae.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
was
But I was taught a lot of things about the Fae.
Mhm.
Also, somebody in Caucasian woman told me, a lot of other things, decolonized version about the Fae and
Yeah.
what they believe them to be like ancient indigenous people.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it's just interesting. I didn't get too much in it because I don't like talking about them that much because then I'll be seeing stuff.
I
No.
know, I
So
was gonna say, yeah, yeah. There's also that aspect too. But I also feel like, okay, so in the chat, recently we just had a container that talked about, and I'll send you the recording like off the record, that talked about Nobu held space for Fae and Jinn. And this is like off the record. So I'm curious, do you think that the Fae and Jinn are connected at all? We're getting really esoteric. So I hope that's
I
okay.
know that's okay because I don't like how the rest of the world like demonizes like Hindu. Like I feel like there's different castes for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? And I
Mm.
think it's so funny how they demonize like anything African tradition, but not Hindu. But anyway, they do demonize it. They call it yoga. But
Right.
anyways,
They
I do
colonize it.
think some
Yeah.
in some form they could like work in tandem some way, but I believe that I don't know. I just believe there's a lot that we don't know, and I'm always drawn to forests. Because I'm from a state that has many forests, and
Mhm.
I always feel so much in there. And the gin, girl, we ain't about to get on the gin. There's so many gin spirits, especially in Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So they can be a little trickster. They remind me of Legba or Crossroads spirits, if you want to relate it to anything.
Mhm.
I think they're all interesting in their own rights, but like, I love a gin.
Me too.
I love a gin. I love a fae. I haven't really done too much digging into the fae again because I don't know. That's my sister's realm. She can speak to that with
Okay.
her fairy ass. But the gin, I think it's beautiful because it's heavily related to Islam,
Mhm.
you know, and also King Solomon. But we ain't gonna get into that.
Oh, why not? We can do a little bit, right? Like just a little,
A little,
a
like
little.
I was having a conversation with an extreme Christian person, and I can be objective. I believe in Jesus, girl. That's one of
Yes.
the greatest ancestors of them all. Very amazing war guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But period. I come from my family mostly is Christians or Jehovah Witness. So
Mhm.
um she was just talking about Solomon, and I was like, Solomon had little devils, or not devils, little demons and jinn building his little temple, right? That's
Mhm.
not right. Oh, you don't know about the lesser shit. Got you. All right. It's
Cool.
literally there, but okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but what do I know?
No big deal,
Nothing.
right?
Yeah, no big deal. But yeah, the jinn are interesting. What are your beliefs around the jinn?
Well, okay, so it's interesting because and I'm in the podcast, I feel like they're connected. To me, I feel like they're a subcategory. Like they're powers in the spiritual realm that to me are like downstream of the light of what people call the light of like Lucifer. Um
Yes, Morning
and I
Star.
Yes, and I feel like Faye and Jin, they like kind of play in the same realms, but I feel like they're made of different essences. So like Jin being maybe like more like fiery, electric, and then Faye kind of having that same sort of spiritual fire, but like it expresses in a different way is the best way that I can put it.
Yeah, like I said, there are different caste systems in the
Yeah.
spiritual realm, right? Like an archangel is not the same as an angel, you know?
Mm, mm-hmm.
So it's different castes in those realms. And I'm just like, I mess with the jinn, you know? People are like, oh, stay away, blah, blah. I am not afraid. Like most times when people post on TikTok the little scary things of like something sitting in their car, I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
jinn.
Um,
Like, that's a jinn, baby. That's not a demon.
and I
That's a
can
jinn.
and I connect Jin and Fae to, like, when people are like they're channeling creative wisdom or like they're channeling light language or chanting. I'm like, when I'm doing that myself, I feel like I'm connecting to these ephemeral realms, and it's sometimes it feels like a Jin, and I'm like, oh, you seem safe to work with, and I think that of course has to do with the larger discernment process you talked about earlier. But I do like them.
Yes,
Like,
because discernment also, people don't know what spirits they talking to. Because
yeah,
what the hell? That I need you to know, not people, for people that are new or people that think they're super supreme and whatever they working with, baby, you gotta know what you're working with. Number one,
yeah.
okay? Because most people don't have real sight,
Mm,
um, as they say. So a lot of people, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say properly without being so damn ghetto, but a lot of people just don't have the sight, and it's
yeah,
like it's okay to ask for guidance from a proper seer
right.
if you don't have the gift of sight. You know what I'm saying? You can obviously have intuition, but something can guise itself as something else. Like I know when something is a trickster. I
Yeah.
know when something is this. It doesn't feel right. Um, I can see it's like, okay, I met this old man that owns this store in LA, and he was really sick. And when I looked at him, I could see something sitting on his back laughing, right? Most people would be terrified to see some shit like that. I was like, you need to go see somebody that can get that off of you, because I don't know how to get that off of you. I don't know what that is.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You have to know what you can't see, but sometimes you have to go off what your gift is. Do you have a
Yeah.
feeling? There's certain things, certain rights that you do to make sure, because you can't just be like, let's say you're trying to contact the dead, right? You can't just be like, oh, is your name such and such? Yes, they can say anything.
I know. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They can say anything. So it's important to know what you're doing. You can't just dive in head first. And like I had another girl get a reading from me, and she's like, oh, I'm practicing this, I'm practicing this, I'm practicing this, I'm practicing that. Pick one, okay? Because now you confusing me. I don't know what
Right.
we're talking about anymore. You got
Right.
too much going on. That's why you can't sleep. You
Yeah.
can't sleep because she's like, "Oh, I'm praying to this deity and that deity and this deity and that one. I'm going to this temple. I'm going to that temple. I need you to pick, baby girl. Good. Look at your bloodline. See
Yeah.
what people in your family did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
beyond Catholicism and all that. Look beyond that. If you're trying to go further, look beyond that or try to, you
Yep.
know, because that's going to keep you up all night. You can't sleep. You're having panic attacks because you're calling on too many spirits. And some of those spirits require certain things to even show up. So you're not even talking to that spirit. You're talking to something else.
Yep.
Like people
Yeah.
say they're calling on Oshun. How?
Yeah, man. That one's a big topic, Simone, like on
How?
TikTok and stuff. And I'm like, wait, a lot of this stuff that people are saying doesn't make sense because they're not connected to the tradition.
They're like, oh, Oshun looks like this. Do you know half of this stuff is nature? Like, do you,
Ah,
like how? But how are you calling on them? Because it's a certain way you call on them.
yeah.
That's why it's a closed practice,
Yep. Yep.
meaning that something else can come into its form pretending to be that. So if
Mm,
you don't know what a trickster is, baby, you don't need to delve into that.
yep.
Okay, just worry about you. Worry about you and your lineage first.
Okay.
Okay, if you once you get, that's all you need to be worried about.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else that comes to you, use with your discernment, but don't sit up here and play with every little thing. Not saying you can't research and do whatever you got, do whatever the hell you want to do. But when you start talking to certain things and saying certain things that's talking to you, what are you doing?
Hmm. Hmm.
Are you
Yeah.
how are you connected to it? Did you get a proper head washing before you did that? There's certain rites and things you got to do. Did you give the proper offering?
Mhm.
That's before a reason, so you don't call on the wrong thing.
Right. Right. No, and all this stuff is important because I feel like it also ties into discernment. Like, what are you going into the realms for? There's a whole slew of questions that come from that, and that I think are worth considering before, yeah, like people connect to certain things, you know? I want to read what's going on in the comments because people are expanding on the conversation that we were having about Faye and Jin. Um,
Yeah.
so let's see. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit. So Psychonaut joined. What's up, Psychonaut? He said, I just had a conversation with someone on Twitter the other day about how similar Jin and Faye folk are. Yes. Thanks for saying that, man. Um, Nobu said, yeah, I feel like what most people refer to as Jin are like a subcategory of Fae. In the movie 3,000 Years of Longing, which if you have you watched that movie?
Uh-uh.
Okay, we'll talk about it off the record. In 3,000 Years of Longing, they talk about Jin as fire and humans as of dust. Um, and then Nobu goes on to say, what people tend to call Jin are just like the more fiery of the fire. And as we were saying in the container, why am I like this about Jin? What most people call Fae are more like water, earth versions of the fire. Yes. Thank you for saying that, Nobu. Because that, I was like, I couldn't find words for that. But I'm wondering how that aligns for you, Simone. Do you feel like Jin are more connected to like fire and then Fae are more like water, earth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you always find the Fae. Yes. That makes so much sense because I don't know, I feel like a gin can also purify too, but or envelop you. But yes, I believe it's just certain rights for certain things, like I said, but I definitely feel that. I definitely feel the gin. I agree with that. Are definitely fine.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And you
Yeah,
know
Nobu
I'm
says,
laughing. But yes.
yeah, I do, because Nobu says purification by fire. And it's that's something that comes up often in some esoteric Sufi traditions is like this concept of like fana, Fana. Um, and it's about that basically, like purification by fire. And I think it has a lot to do with leftovers from like this connection between Hinduism and Islam, but we're not going to get into that today. Um,
Hello. Hello.
is that ringing any bells for you?
Hello. Yeah, my spirit's like, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I definitely mentioned that a couple months ago to somebody. I'm like, I don't know what you talking about. This is all connected, but okay.
Yeah.
Um, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree on that. And like he said, purification, that reminds me of like just creating, right? That whole process is like alchemy.
Hmm.
Um, same thing, same thing. I love it.
I know. There's so many bells ringing for me. Let me ask the audience.
Because people, I've been accused of being a jinn, so it's like, yeah,
Okay, tell me how did you feel about that? What's that experience? What does it even mean to be a jinn?
I don't
T.
know how that person meant it, but I was getting a Reiki
Uh-huh.
session, and the girl, when I'm doing laying of hands on people, I'm gonna see everything. I see a lot. I don't just see pink butterflies and all that, whatever they be talking about. I am going to see a lot. So I guess when she did it to me, there was something that came around her in her little whatever that looked like a jinn that told her to back the fuck up. So she got scared and said I was a demon reincarnated or jinn reincarnated, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they just didn't like you.
Uh,
You know, I don't know what you're
so
trying to do. Hmm.
you feel like they have a protective quality too?
Definitely. That's why I said they're like crossroad spirits because they will protect you. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I definitely feel that they're protective as well. I definitely feel like it can read as 'cause a lot of people, um, how do I say this? Used to be scared of me, you know? And I never could understand why. And they're like, you have such a whatever energy, especially around Christians, right?
Yeah.
Um, and again, I come from my dad's Christian, devout, or he
Mm.
was, rest your soul. Um, and people always be like, "Oh, there's something up, blah blah blah. You're a witch," or I'm accused of being a witch, even as a young girl, right? But it's just the energy around me, and like I even like even in like ATRs, a lot of babas or whatever would tell me that I have a lot of what do they call them? Primordial spirits around me.
Mhm.
That's the exact words that they use. Primordial, very scary. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. But I know people can feel it. I just didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? I'm so bubbly and all this. They're like,
Yeah, like on
no.
the surface, that's how you present. Yeah.
They're like, no. There's something about you. I don't. I'm like, that's fine. Yeah, it's not for everybody, baby. But yeah, so um I I used to be offended and like it made me feel like an outcast.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now it's just like I have so much discernment and I can see. I'm like, okay. Um, it empowers me and not from an egoic space, from a space of like understanding people more, understanding myself more, understanding where I come from a complex mix of ancestors and
Yeah.
spirit guides that walk with me, that I'm no longer ashamed of that, because that can turn to, if you have like a split of self, it can be like your shadow side and your whatever side
Yeah.
fighting against each other,
Yeah, like
or
an ego.
like you thinking your ancestors are demonic and it's just they trying to connect with you, because your ancestor is also Jesus, for many of us in that ancient Canaanite blood. But um I yeah, hopefully
That's it. Yeah,
that's how I can, that's how I can answer that for
absolutely.
you.
Thank you for saying that. And it's like, okay, I do want to say that it's funny because I do think it has to do with culture. I think it has to do with people's capacity to hold complexity. But I will say that in my culture, to be like referred to as like a jinn, as a woman especially, is like a very deeply empowering thing. Like most women in my culture and just my family lineage, when they've had like a breath of, like, let's say leadership or creative power or even birthing power, it's said that she's to have a jinn in her womb and it's a good thing. So I also think that it relates to how certain sects of religious orders have colonized what is essentially like different powers of nature, and higher octaves of these very powers, so because to say a primordial spirit to someone who's connected to them, that's not a scary thing. That's a welcoming kind of essence. It's like, hey, let me get to know you. Maybe my primordial spirit and your primordial spirit know each other. And so, but I know it takes time for not only like collectives to get there, but like even, families and within, people's lineage, it takes time to break through that trauma of whether it's like witch hunting, being, shielding, burned at the stake or whatever for the type of
Oh,
power.
trauma, PTSD. Oh my goodness. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah, no, go on.
That's an ancestral PTSD for me, being burnt at the stake. I just, every time I hear about it, I'd be like, I'm
Fair.
pretty sure in a past life I was burnt at the stake or something, because I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No. Also, one of our ancestors, or African Americans ancestors, was burnt at the stake in the Salem witch trial. So there's a
Uh,
lot about that. That's how that started. It was actually a black woman that they accused from Haiti. Yeah.
wow.
Um, and my dad's dad is from Haiti. So yeah,
It's
very
very-
interesting. Yeah. Um, that I learned through my ancestors, and then other people started learning about it too, and now it's like that's what really happened. They started burning women for having certain knowledge of certain things. So, and everything was you're a witch, because they could not explain, you know.
yeah, like
And
this.
that's that. Yeah, I got that a lot as a kid, dude. You're a witch.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
I
I used
started.
to like scare people back and be like, don't get too close because I'll
I
run.
mean, but your lineage, I'm gonna be honest, your lineage, no disrespect, they are absolutely witches.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean like the true, like the everything y'all do is ritualistic.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything. And it's so beautiful. And y'all evil eye is serious.
Yeah.
Okay? I would
Yeah.
not play with a Habesha woman. Like people do not know, but I know. Like, that, and I don't mean to use that word because I want to take power back for that word, but it's just a magi, like that's the real, yeah, like women are magi's, and men are too, but like women were like the first deemed as like magi's and seers and stuff like that, like they were originally like the vessels of God and stuff like that. So I don't know, it just speaks to that power in your bloodline. I don't know, it's beautiful. Everything I do is how y'all eat, how you pray, everything.
Thank you, dude. Yeah,
Love
and
it.
it's funny because it's like something I used to be ashamed of growing up as a kid, but I feel like now as I've gotten older and like accepted these different parts of myself and harmonized these different parts of myself, I'm like, okay, like this is actually like something I can get behind and like into my life, you know? Um,
Yes.
because it's like power and it is the power of magic. Um, and I
Y'all
think
cleanse so much. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know you're done.
yep, no, that too. I literally was cleaning before this. Like
Yes, y'all clean. Y'all understand the importance of cleansing on multiple levels. Y'all
yep,
understand the importance of protection, of speaking power over you. Like there's so much in it, so much beauty and knowledge in it, and also the awareness of like evil eye and
yeah.
crafting people. Like it's so. I love your tradition, but
You making me snort over here. I can't.
I'm sorry, but I be like, God, I met a Habesha woman not so long ago. I said, "You be doing stuff." She's like, "No, I don't." I said, "Yeah, you do. You ain't gotta lie to me. You be over there, yeah. I'm about to get your business like that, but I see you. Girl. I don't do that. Yeah, you do. That's why you smiling. Okay.
I can't.
Mm-hmm. I can see it on you, girl. You just doused yourself in the bukor. Is that how you said
Yes.
before you came? I smell it. I smell it.
It's so
You
funny
know,
because like when you and I first talked, I felt like there was that like mutual seeing because I was like, I see her. I wonder if she sees me. So
absolutely. But on a respect level, because I respect people. I don't just. That's
yeah,
one thing too about discernment. Also, boundaries and good manners when it comes to that. I'm not just gonna look at a person. Oh, let me see their life. That's fucked up. Number
yeah,
one, I don't have time for that. Number two, is if we're in a container and we're talking, I'm like, oh, is it okay if we? I like how we ask permission to each
yeah,
other, and
yeah,
there's boundaries. I'm
yeah.
never gonna peek into somebody's life like that. That's not right.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And I would say like honestly like that was like me and yours connection was like the first time where I felt like that mutual respect was there. And so like getting into the magic felt almost like the next natural thing, you know, to have these conversations about lineage, to have conversations about ancestors, like outside of like you're probably the one I have had the most and like strong conversations that have to do with lineage and ancestry. So it's like I'm just so grateful for this time in this space and this container.
Me
Um,
too.
before I move on, I do want to read some of the stuff that's coming up in the chat.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
okay, so on the topic of jinn, Nobu said quote unquote reincarnation of a jinn doesn't make sense in my cosmology. Similar to when people say people are demons, I just feel like people have a hard time understanding levels or complexity 100%.
Thank you,
Lexi
Noble. 'Cause I was like, this lady's crazy. All right, go ahead.
Lexi said, I think some people are scared of other people's internal power. Mm-hmm.
You ate, Lexi.
Yep.
Eat it up.
Snap. Yep.
Get your plate and fork.
No crumbs.
Left
No,
at all.
Nobu that says, okay, so like a vessel can channel many different spirits, some being jinn, some thought forms, some angels, some vaster beings, etc. That don't make them the thing that they're channeling, in my opinion. He goes on.
Oh, I just adore y'all.
I'm so happy you're enjoying this, Simone. So he goes on to say, like Jesus channeled El, but people are fixated on him being the whole El. But guess what? He also channeled the devil in the desert. Does that make him the devil? It
Drop your
said,
mic and
right?
walk off stage. Thank you. Drop your mic and walk off stage. I didn't even let her finish. I'm sorry. Drop your mic and walk off stage. Boom. I did
That's it.
that. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and
Got me
that's the
hyped.
crux of it. That's the crux of it. That's what we were talking about. And I think, okay, so I'll read the rest of what he said. So after he's saying, so he was, like it said, the devil spoke to him, so he was channeling the devil. And then it's about, okay, you can hear X and Y, but what do you actually use to manifest? But you're a human. And Noble also says the word magi has been coming up for me for the past 2 days. And he
Hello.
felt to, he looked up the etymology and it means be able. Whew,
Yes.
whew.
Yes. And to add on to his point, like the Sibyls were everywhere. They had temples everywhere. The Delphi oracles, the Mamisi, the the ancient Kemetic goddesses, kings and queens. They were everywhere. And they were channels and vessels for different spirits, but mostly El.
Mm,
Okay. And
mm.
getting people rid or helping people get rid of what's on them, cleansing them, getting to the bathhouse, detox. Um, you know, so it's very funny because like I got a tattoo on me when I was younger, didn't know what the hell I was doing. That's what I'm saying. Initiations just be coming,
Yeah.
right? And it's L on me. You know what I'm saying? And my name is now Samone Davis hyphen L because shout out to the the temple, but and just that whole I don't know how to. I'm so excited, but yeah, the when people actually dig into the knowledge of all of that and really understand what he's saying, and they like, oh, okay, like I love that people praise Jesus. Obviously, Yeshua is great, but I'm like,
Mhm,
y'all still missing, um, Yahweh, El.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's big in the Mamisi, big in the matriarch, El. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. He ate with that, or they ate with that. I don't know their pronouns. He, she, they ate with that.
Thank you, dude. Wow. Oh my God. And on Sibbles, I feel like there's so much coming up for me right now. I just want to check in with y'all. How are y'all feeling? How's everybody feeling? We got a good in the chat. Cool. There is so much coming up for me. Like, okay, let me try to ground, but if I can't ground, it's okay. Lexi says I'm feeling good, loving this convo. Thanks for reflecting, y'all. Simone, is there anything coming up for you that feels like important to share, or anything else you want to muse on?
Mm. More so, I'm on the topic of creation and creativity
Yeah.
and going through that initiation, right?
Mhm.
That's what's on my spirit. And we can get back to the Magi's because I feel like there's a lot of people that are Magi's that do not know. Hence why everybody's returning to ancient studies like it's astrology. But a lot of people are whatever. Um, what I want to say about it. Do not deny yourself the pleasure of creating. You know what I'm saying? Despite your circumstances, despite anything that's happening around you, that's a great way to connect with yourself, with El, with Yahshua, Yahweh, whoever you pray to, um, or don't. But I definitely suggest prayer or some type of something with your mouth because closed mouths don't get fed,
Mhm.
right? Um, and it's always important in that process of creating whatever you're creating to show gratitude. You know what I'm saying? We can get caught up in what's going on in the world. There's so much happening. It's gonna be so much happening all the time. I am a person that stays up sometimes and prays for children because children are so precious, right? And I see so much horrible shit happening in dreams and I'll be waking up crying, right? It's a lot to carry to be a medium, right? To be a prophetess, a symbol, if you will, to carry that title. Because there comes responsibility with these titles, you have to sacrifice certain things like your sleep sometimes, and not necessarily, but like when I say that, I'm saying like I sacrifice time to pray, you
Yeah.
know.
So,
Um, but in those processes and whatever you're doing, like show gratitude and like try to honor yourself and be gentle with yourself because that whole initiatory space of you creating something, a lot of people feel angry or anguish or all these feelings of lack because they're not creating, right? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be for the world. It doesn't have to be for whatever. It can just simply be for yourself. Doing something with your hands, doing something with your mouth, whether that is eating off a beautiful plate, eating your cherries off a beautiful plate. That's an aphrodisiac. That's experiencing joy. That's you experiencing some level of joy and some level of intimacy with yourself. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Intimacy starts with self. You know what I mean? Like, you have to also um, learn to deprogram your mind from what you were told that you are capable of doing and what you're not. And know your capacity. Do not work yourself to burnout. It's
Yep.
not gonna make you get there faster. Your blessings are gonna be handed to you when it's your time.
Yep.
So again, open your mouth, pray about it, affirm it. You know what I'm saying? Walk
Yeah.
in it. We're gonna have doubts and all those things. It's a natural human thing, but it's even when you're on the wrong path, you'll end up on the right one.
Yep.
You know, it's
Yep.
about that motion forward. And so um I want people to know that you gotta take that first step. I feel like I'm gonna be talking to somebody particular, but you gotta take that first step. You have to reprogram your subconscious on what you can and capable of doing. You cannot allow yourself to be stuck in those cycles of what everybody else has told you was possible. You have to know inside of you what is possible, whatever that is for you. And that's your initiation, right? That's the beauty of that. And then there comes a point where you're going to go through that purification process of like removing all of that poison, or again, word to Jordan, removing the shame, the grief, um, and all of that stolen from you, like things were stolen from our ancestors, right? And regaining what is necessary for you on this path in life. So that is important step as well. It's like the process of alchemy, like I said. You will get that philosopher's stone eventually.
Mm, well said. Well fucking said, yo. Wow. And you actually answered all the three questions, the last ones that I had without me even having to ask them. So I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah, you did.
period. Period. Two, what make the song say? Two Velo. Period.
I'm sorry.
That's exactly how I said it. Two Velo. Period. She is so goofy. But yeah, he is a great example of a bitch that walked through that fire. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Everything was against her. Her mother died. Everything was against her. People coming at her. She walked through that fire. Okay. Regardless if she's famous and all this stuff, and that's like pop culture, right? But
Right.
on a human to human level, regardless of somebody's destiny, because everybody has a different destiny, right? Your destiny may be to create fucking pots for plants. And I'm saying that because I'm doing that today because that's fun.
Yay.
You know what I'm saying? But like, or like African mass, which I'm doing today because it's fun. But like, whatever your destiny is, like you cannot allow these outside things to swallow you whole. You feel me? You have to literally be like a snake and shed all that shit and stand in your truth, because that's what's going to fuel you and instill joy in you. There's a difference between joy and happiness. You want to have that everlasting joy. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can steal that from you. Nobody can steal like your ancestral energy, power, things that came from things that are unseen. And we can talk about the Dogon tribe and the star system, and we're gonna get into that because
Uh,
that's what I also didn't say to y'all. Like, a lot of how I also got into it too is I had got into spirituality and just like going after my career and things like that, and creating, how creating is so important for me as an artist, um is staring at the fucking stars. When I tell you, I had to go to the highest point of where I was living and just
mm,
stare at the stars, and I would receive messages, boom, 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 but not in a chaotic way. So, it was almost like what people call them, light codes, right? Um, and I would be so inspired and so calm. Okay, that's how I know when a benevolent spirit is speaking to me. I feel calm.
yeah.
I feel ease. I feel comforted, even
Mm,
if they're telling me something that's I don't want to hear, right?
yeah.
I still feel calm. I
Yeah.
don't feel anxious or anxiety or fear. I feel calm. you know? And so I feel receptive to it. I'm connected to it. And that's one thing I would do a lot is look at the stars. I'm obsessed with the stars. I'm obsessed with the universe. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also obsessed with Earth because
Yeah.
Mother Earth has so much beauty, you
Yep.
know, and the
Yep.
things unseen, that ancestral realm. And I believe like there's a lot of ancestral things with the stars because that's what our ancestors worked off as the
Yes.
stars.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like in the chat. Lexi said, "Ooh, Dogon," and then Nobu said, "We love the Dogon." I think there's also I may have tagged you in it, but it's okay. For the Dogon, because I'm like, I feel like that's so connected to like celestial navigating ancestors, and so, oh my god, I feel like we're gonna have a part two of this conversation. Is that okay with you?
That is fine because
Yeah.
when I tell you I learned a lot about the stars, one through when we first connected, we were all about what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also what my ancestors did of this land, the natives. Everybody was working with the star system. Okay.
Yeah.
And nature. So and they also recognized there was a higher being at play. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I was always very fascinated with we're like so small in the middle of this big ass fucking universe. Like how? Like I was so fascinated and excited. Like, girl, I just want to be a fucking astronaut. Cause I'm just like, I want to go look at it. You know what I'm saying? I want to be out there. Like I was obsessed. But yeah, obsessed.
Wow. Mm. Yeah, I also want to say that Nobu is chanting in the background and holding his like daily prayer container in the background of this container. So I just want to say I really appreciate that because I can also sense into like the sacredness of this space um, from all different directions. Okay, before I get too much in a trance, Simone, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? And yeah, can people book sessions with you? Talk to us.
Ooh, okay. So number one, me personally, I am a professional artiste, a visual director, art director, also a priestess. You feel me? So um to find my personal stuff, I would want people to follow my YouTube. Just follow Planet Simone. If people want to book me for, I don't have any place where people can book me for spiritual things because people just come to my inbox, but I will. I took that down because I needed space. But if they want to book something that is more of like how to progress in your career, um, I have mini sessions on my business site that I offer to strategize because I know how to take a business from nothing to something. Even if they're already established big ass corporation, people book me. You feel me? So whether that's for strategy, directing, creative ideation, creating campaigns, all that nature, we do a lot there. Mostly creative and production agency. But I do offer like affordable service that people can book repeatedly. I think Hoda, you booked one, right?
Sure did. Sure did.
Yeah. And so I keep that very affordable for um, people because I work with corporations and brands and they have a bigger budget, right? But I keep those sessions available for people who want to progress or put more into what they're doing or strategize it because a lot of people have the idea, they just don't know how to do it or
Hmm.
they need help. Everybody needs help because
Right.
I can't do business on my own. You know, I had to completely start over. But yeah, that's how you find me. You can follow all my socials for my personal is Planet Simone. Um, and then my business is Mother Nine Agency. But I will be having something else launch later this year where people can book me for very particular things. But
Mm.
if you want to book like a, divination or um, a hypnosis session, you can do that. You just have to DM me because I'm not offering that publicly right now. I mean, I do offer it publicly, but I'm not putting it on the website right now.
Yeah.
I'm not called to do that until fall. So yeah.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much. So y'all make sure that you follow and tap in with Simone. Um, and I just want to say thank you, Simone. Thank you so much for the breadth of what you shared here today and just your openness and the heart that you came in with today. And for those of y'all who are here in the container, Julie, Lexi, Nobu, Psychonaut, all the bots helping us record. Shout out to y'all. I appreciate you guys for being here. And
I'm weak.
for those of y'all listening on the Broom podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. There will be links to let you all know how to support the Broom, and also links on where you can find Simone's YouTube in the show notes. And thank y'all again. Thank you. Thank y'all. This was beautiful.
Thank
Peace.
you for having me.